Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us a very special guest, and his name is Kenneth Burke. Kenneth is the marketing director for TextRequest, a B2B text messaging software company in Chattanooga. He's run a boutique marketing agency where he's helped many companies of all sizes with their marketing and content strategies. And he's been awarded for work in psychology research and sales. So without further delay, welcome, Kenneth.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Kenneth, before we get into the meat of the podcast, we always like to ask our guests to share with us a little bit about their journey. You know, how did you end up where you are today?
Ooh, great question. So TextRequest is a startup. It's about 4 years old now, or 3.5. And I got into it because one of my good friends was one of the people who helped to start it. So I was going through, I was at a sales position somewhere else. I was looking to get out of it, just wanting something new and different. And my friend was super excited about this idea and the concept and starting things off. And I thought, you know what, I want to be a part of that. So that's how I got here from my previous job. Before that, I had a degree in psychology and, with a focus in experimental research. And that's about it. That's how I got here. And then I've done some consulting as well on the side.
Okay, great. So I was, in preparing for the podcast, of course, I went to your website, textrequest.com. And that's TextRequest.com for those of our listeners that would like to check it out while they're listening. And it says text messaging for small businesses. Start texting with your current business number and you can reach 4 times more people and get more leads and increase revenue. Could you explain to us how that really works?
Yeah, so it starts with a basic concept that these days, most people, thinking consumers, most people don't answer phone calls and don't reply to emails like they used to. Mm-hmm. So depending on what industry you're in, and then even within, what company, rates for phone calls are anywhere from like 5% are answered to up to 20%. Mm-hmm. 20, I think, is definitely the high bar there. Mm-hmm. And then according to Constant Contact, the average email open rate is only about 18%. That's not even including responses or click-throughs conversion. So there's clearly room for engagement there. And what we found is that most people, and there are studies and stats to back this up, but most people want to text with a business. So what we do, we give people a platform or a dashboard where they can text back and forth with customers really easily. But the reason it's so successful or why it works so well is because people actually read their text. So 99% of texts are read. The response rate is about 90 seconds on average, which, is so the reach rate's 4 times that, or maybe even 5 times that of email. And then you're actually going to get engagement and get responses because it's what people want these days. So Amazing. Does that help your question?
Yeah, it does. It's interesting the way you've explained it because, okay, so most businesses are also on social media, right? Mm-hmm. And
exactly.
Social media also has platform for texting. So Facebook has Facebook Messenger. Instagram has Instagram messaging where you can directly message the business or the person depending on the type of business they are. So why would they choose this platform versus those platforms that, there's already interface of what the business is about, the products and services they have to offer, maybe even read feedback from other people who've interfaced with that particular product or service?
Yeah, great question. So in general, mobile messaging, any messaging app from any platform is huge these days. It's just what people prefer.
Right.
So, Facebook Messenger is kind of its own thing. I'll leave that separate for a minute. A lot of people use it and it works really well. Text Messenger is just a basic communications tool, and it works really well, or it, meshes with your, can work with your Instagram account, can work with your Google listing. So both your Google business listing and your search ads, and with your website or anywhere else online where you can control a phone number. So that's a big part of it. Is from the consumer side, they can go to your website, search for you online, and if they're on a phone, they can just click and send you a text really quickly. And all of it comes to the same place, which is easy for a business to manage. So
understood.
And then a lot of times too, a business will, they're the ones trying to initiate the conversations. So for them, they've got, it might be a few dozen or it might be several thousand customers or members or volunteers or whoever it is that they're trying to keep up with and communicate with. And, text, which is one place to do that's really nice, as opposed to going to all of your individual apps to message someone.
Great. Now, in the 3 to 4 years that you said your startup has been in operation, can you tell us some of the industries that predominantly tend to use your service?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of them. Everyone texts for 100 reasons, and so every business can find a way to text. Staffing is a big one. So staffing agencies, they have hundreds, if not a few thousand, employees on their roster, so to speak, that they're communicating with, trying to fill, and they're trying to fill positions with clients and things like that. So, texting everyone is a lot easier, or sending one message to everyone even, is a lot easier than individually calling each person on the list and leaving voicemail, etc. Home service companies is another big one. So you think of maid services, HVAC, cleaning, or plumbing, electricians. Companies like that, they are always needing to check that the person's going to be home or at their business for them to come by. Make sure the doors are unlocked, and even just that quick scheduling of an appointment. A lot of times it's easier for them because a consumer is a lot of times can't answer phone calls during the day while they're at work, but they can send a quick text. So that ends up working out really well.
Okay. So from what I've heard you say so far, it sounds like it's predominantly more service-based businesses rather than product-based businesses. Would that be fair to say? Yeah,
that's fair.
Okay. And, I know for sure here in Jamaica, where I live, 74%, I think was the last statistic, of our GDP comes from service-based businesses.
Okay.
So a lot of organizations are not necessarily into new products or manufacturing per se, but more the core of their business has to do with providing a service to the consumer. Would you say where you are in the part of the United States that you are, that maybe most of the businesses are also in that same realm, or would you say it's the opposite?
It's hard to say. I don't know the stats on it. I mean, the people I come into contact with professionally, day to day, week to week, most of them provide some sort of service. They might be accountants or, in a home service industry or something. Our particular area does have a lot of industry and manufacturing, but most of the small businesses around here are
service based.
Exactly. So.
Understood. So we have a lot of people who listen to our podcast globally. And some of them are new business owners. Some of them are existing business owners, and they're looking to find new ways to infuse in their business so that they can set themselves apart. Yeah. Based on your experience as a business owner yourself, as well as a consumer, what are some everyday solutions that you believe can help to improve customer experience in small businesses?
Yeah, so a few of the basics, a fast and accurate website. Most people are going online to find out who you are, information, what are your business hours, what are your reviews. So making sure that that's easy for them to find and that all the info is up to date is really important, particularly if you're in any kind of if you have specific business hours, there are a lot of times with holidays or, just things change where there's an inaccurate or something's inaccurate on your listing, and that turns away business. So that's a big one that a lot of people, particularly if they work with a marketing agency for their listings, that they just overlook. They don't think about. So that's a big one. Another one I think is just talking to your customers. It's simple. It's even obvious. But a lot of times businesses and business owners, particularly entrepreneurs, they get started and you have this idea of here's who my target customer is and here's what exactly it is that they need. But then you get into it and you find out that, okay, people aren't flocking to my service or my new product as much as we thought they would. Our marketing must be wrong or something, or these people must just be dumb. And, that's one, you probably never think your customer's dumb, but that's usually that there's just a disconnect between what you're providing and what your customers actually want. And so in our experience, having conversations day in and day out with, dozens, hundreds, thousands of people helps you to really internalize what they're trying to accomplish and what the way they want to go about it. And then, you build those relationships. And once you have those relationships, you begin to empathize with them, or you begin to think the same way that they think. And from there, the service you offer, the customer service you offer, and then the specific services and the entire experience start to really come together.
Gotcha. Now, as a consumer yourself, right? What's the one thing you look for when you shop with a business? Like, what's your number one thing you're looking for a business to have?
Yeah, for me, it's just what's going to be easiest usually, because there's always so much going on. There's always going to be someone who has a cheaper option, and there's always going to be someone who has a better option. So for me, it's just, what's the quick solution that I know I'm not going to regret?
Understood. So what I heard from you a while ago is that as a consumer, you're looking for something that requires you to exert as little energy as possible, but something that won't cost you too much in terms of it's quick, but it's also efficient, correct?
Right, yeah.
And so over the years, in interviewing different people in different industries across the world for this podcast, I really have found that consumers nowadays are seeking an effortless experience. They're looking for that organization that can take the effort out of the experience because, as you said, there's so many other competing activities that you have to do on a daily basis. Take the effort out, but at the same time, ensure that they are achieving the goal that you set in terms of achieving, so whether it's buying a shoe or getting your carpet cleaned at home or getting a room painted or, getting your website up with a web developer, it's efficient, but you have to exert as little energy as possible because this person's just so able to meet your needs in such a very easy and effortless way. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's, the people who make it effortless or the companies who make it effortless are the ones that stand out.
Yep. Very true. Very true. So in your own business operation, Kenneth, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you couldn't absolutely live without in your business?
It's hard to say because I use so many different, resources.
You could share two if one is hard to pick.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of like if one was gone, I'm sure there would be another one to take its place.
Yeah.
Our content management system, I think, is the biggest one. So we used WordPress for a while. We just switched to Umbraco recently. For us, that's the biggest thing because we are always adding pages and changing copy and, adding sections to our website and customer profiles and case studies and all these things. So just for me to just be able to jump in and make those changes 18 times a day is really helpful. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, I would say probably the Mozbar Chrome extension. So that basically it's a browser extension for Chrome where you can click on it while viewing any other website and see what its domain authority is, how it kind of its backlink profile, and some other search engine optimization key metrics, which for a lot of what I do is crucial.
Understood. Okay. So you mentioned your web hosting company. You said you recently switched from WordPress to Umbraco and the extension of Chrome that helps you to deal with your metrics, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So if you could share with us some of the books that have had the biggest impact on you.
Yeah. So, it's always hard to pick because, there are always so many. And whenever you read one thing, it tends to build on something else you've read, and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek for me was huge. It was kind of the first book on entrepreneurship or on anything related to life and work that didn't involve just being in a corporate office all day, that I read, which, for me at the time I read it was really impactful for framing how I wanted to go about my day to day. The book Rest by Alex Sujung Kim Pang was really big for me. In America in particular, we have this mindset of like, oh, you have to hustle 24/7 if you're going to achieve anything. It's kind of I call it the Gary Vee approach. And so this book is a scientific, very well documented account of how the most successful people in history, or at least some of them, have prioritized rest over the grind. So some people who are included in it are like Thomas Jefferson and Bill Gates. And it talks about how whenever you focus on rest, and not just like vegging out in front of a TV, you're getting a lot of sleep, although sleep is important, but rest is in doing other activities that stimulate different parts of your brain. So, even like if, or in college, this was common, at least people would say, for every 45 minutes you study, make sure that you spend 15 minutes doing something active. And just kind of that back and forth of activity switching without trying to multitask.
True.
So that was big, and it kind of put some thoughts I'd been having and some things I'd experienced before in, one book that had all the references, all the resources, all the studies, and the big names in it. So I recommend that one to everyone. And then the book Peak by Anders Ericsson.
Mm-hmm. Very good book.
Yeah, I love it. So he's for listeners, if they don't know, Dr. Ericsson is the same one who did the research that Malcolm Gladwell ended up coining into the 10,000 hours.
Yes.
And I love the book because one, it's like it's like a 30-year history of everything this man's done and everyone else in his field has done in just a few hundred pages. But I love the concept in it that the brain really never stops growing. That it's incredibly elastic, and that counter to the common belief that your brain's kind of done developing by the time you're 25 or whatever, you can keep pushing and keep growing and keep improving in different areas.
True. You're never too old to learn.
Exactly. You really can teach an old dog new tricks. So.
Very true. Okay, so those are some good books, and we are going to have the links to those books in our show notes of this episode. Now, Kenneth, we have a lot of listeners who are business owners and managers, who some of them feel that they have really great products and services, but somehow they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
Yeah, that one's tough. So the one thing I would say is you can often do more with a few people who are really invested than with a lot of people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Collins, particularly in his book Good to Great, talks a lot about the concept of getting the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
You need to get the right people on your team, and you need to get the wrong people off of your team before you really start driving it.
True.
So if you're in a position where you already have a great product or great service, you kind of have the customer experience or the product market fit, whatever, tied up, and the problem is personnel. Sometimes you might not need to keep that person.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there's always more you can do as a leader. So, you need to evaluate, how are you compensating them? Are you giving them the intangibles that any reasonable person would want, such as autonomy to do their job well, trust, listening to their ideas and actually acting on them and trying to encourage engagement as opposed to just saying, well, you don't know anything, so we're going to pass on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, there's two sides. You can always be a better leader. You can always do more. But at the end of the day, you can't make somebody want to get up and help your business grow.
True. And I'm glad you touched on that point, because it's something that we speak about a lot in our customer service workshops, leadership workshops. That attitude is something that comes from within. And, you can bring in the greatest trainers, the most expensive consultants, the best of the best that the world could ever provide. But at the end of the day, if that person is just not wanting to do what you want them to do, then you aren't going to get much further.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Kenneth. Now, can you tell us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you are really excited about? Either something that you are working on to develop yourself or your people.
Yeah. So right now, well, we have a pretty small team and we're really tight knit, which is convenient, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But also, practical and great and all those things. But we, as a startup, we just a few months ago hit the milestone of $1 million in annual recurring revenue.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so that's really exciting by itself. But we also have what I think is a really good plan in place to at least double that in the next 12 months. So that's exciting. That, I'm more intrinsically motivated, but that helps me wake up in the morning.
Awesome. Great. Now, let's say our listeners want to connect with you after they've listened to this awesome interview. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so we're almost everywhere. So let's see, start with Facebook. You can just go to facebook.com/TextRequest. Twitter is @text_request. My personal profile on Twitter is @BurkeWriter. So BurkeWriter. We're also on Instagram, text.request, or @Kenneth Burke Writer. You can find us on Google+, on Google Listening, on LinkedIn. Anywhere you want to go, just search for TextRequest and you can probably find us.
Awesome.
It'll be the green cube.
All right. Now, before we wrap up our interview, we always like to ask our guests, what is one quote or saying that during times of adversity or challenges you tend to revert to kind of help you keep centered and to, focus on your path or your goal? Do you have one of those?
I do. Yeah. So for me, it's a quote from William Faulkner. Mm-hmm. So he was actually joking with one of his writing buddies and wrote it in a letter and said, "I only write when I'm inspired. Fortunately, I'm inspired every morning at 9 a.m. And I love that because a lot of times I find that the discipline or the habit is more important than the motivation or, whatever challenge is going on. Mm-hmm. If you wake up every day and you just say, okay, I'm up, here's what I'm going to do towards, my work, my goal, my passion, whatever it is, mm-hmm. it becomes a lot easier to one, just do the work, but two, to see results over time.
True. Very good. All right. Thank you so much. So we just want to say thanks again to Kenneth Burke for taking time out of his very busy day to share with us some great insights on his business, TextRequest, that can definitely help to build your business, create more leads, gain more revenue. And it's definitely a new trend in the communication era for small businesses. So if your business thinks that it will benefit from the products that TextRequest and Kenneth and his team have to offer, head on over to textrequest.com and connect with them Their connections via social media will be available in the links to this episode. And so we just want to say thank you again, Kenneth, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And for those of you that would like to join our conversation on Facebook, feel free to head on over to Navigating the Customer Experience community, where we share information on customer service, customer experience in different industries, articles, just new insights. So feel free to head on over and join us. And of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. So thanks again. I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more? Or improve your leadership skills? Or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.yannickgrant.com. That's YANNIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at yannickgrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of each episode starting September 7, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the steps to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.